You are listening to HOA Boardroom Battles. The HOA tried to weaponize winter. I am standing in my driveway in Denver, Colorado on a February morning, so cold my breath looks like smoke. And Sharon Turner is screaming at me about a reflective triangle marker I use to mark the edge of my driveway when the plow comes through. She is holding a clipboard in one hand and a flashlight in the other, shining it at every icy patch like she is conducting a crime scene investigation. The fine, she says, is $200, effective immediately, because the marker is an unapproved yard sign under Tundra Trace HOA emergency snow policy. I ask her what emergency snow policy. She smiles and says, I decide what counts as cleared, not you. I moved to Denver 6 months ago for work. I am a fleet mechanic for a municipal garage, which means I keep city trucks, plows, and emergency vehicles running through the worst weather Colorado can throw at us. The job is good, the pay is solid, and the winters are brutal but manageable if you plan ahead. I bought a small ranch house in a neighborhood called Tundra Trace because the price was right and the commute was short. The HOA seemed quiet at first. The rules were typical. No RVs parked in driveways, no loud parties after 10. Keep your grass cut in summer, shovel your walks in winter. Standard stuff. What I did not know was that the board had recently elected Sharon Turner as safety committee chair, and Sharon had decided that safety meant total control. The trouble started 3 weeks ago. I work early shifts, so I am out the door by 5 in the morning most days. Denver had just gotten hammered by a snow squall that dropped 8 inches overnight, and the city plows were running nonstop. I shoveled my walkway, salted the steps, and stuck my reflective triangle marker at the edge of the driveway so the plow driver would not clip my mailbox. It is a small orange triangle on a flexible pole, the kind you see at construction sites. I have used them for years. They work. That afternoon, I came home to a notice taped to my door. Violation of community standards, unapproved exterior decoration, immediate removal required. No fine listed, just a warning. I pulled the marker, annoyed but not worried. 2 days later, another snow squall hit. I put the marker back out. The next morning, Sharon was on my porch at 6, pounding on the door with her flashlight. She told me the marker was a recurring violation and that the HOA had adopted an emergency winter enforcement policy. I asked to see the policy. She said it was in the portal. I checked the portal that night. Nothing. No new rules, no meeting minutes, no vote. I sent an email to the management company asking for clarification. They replied with a generic message, all enforcement actions are handled by the board. Please direct questions to your committee chair. I called Sharon. She did not pick up. I left a voicemail. She texted me an hour later. Stop harassing board members or I will escalate this to legal. That was when I realized this was not about the marker. This was about power. Sharon had found a target, and she was going to squeeze. The next week, she escalated. A certified letter arrived, formal letterhead, Tundra Trace HOA logo at the top. It demanded $400 in accumulated fines for repeated violations of snow safety standards and warned that failure to pay within 10 days would result in a lien on my property. The letter referenced Section 12 of the emergency snow policy, which I still could not find anywhere. I called the management company again. This time they put me on hold for 15 minutes and then told me the board had the authority to adopt interim rules during weather emergencies and that I should attend the next meeting if I had concerns. The problem was I could not afford to have any legal trouble right now. I had a background check coming up for a promotion at work, a lead mechanic position that would bump my pay and give me better hours. Any lien, any lawsuit, anything that showed up as unresolved would hurt my chances. Sharon knew that. I do not know how, but she knew. Maybe she asked around, maybe she just guessed, but she was using the timeline as a weapon. I needed help. I called my friend Jessica, a paralegal who works at a family law firm in Denver but does HOA consulting on the side. She told me to document everything, every notice, every email, every conversation. She also told me to check the HOA governing documents to see if the board even had the authority to create emergency rules without a vote. I pulled the CCRs from the county recorder and read them that night. Turns out, the board could adopt temporary rules, but only with a quorum vote recorded in the meeting minutes, and those minutes had to be posted within 72 hours. I checked the portal again. No minutes, no vote, no record of any meeting since November. Jessica told me to request the minutes in writing and to file a formal dispute with the management company. I did both. The management company responded with a form letter saying disputes had to go through the board first. Sharon responded by sending a tow truck. It was a Saturday morning, early March, another snow squall rolling in. I was in the garage working on my truck when I heard the diesel engine rumble up the street. I looked out and saw a flatbed with a bright yellow hook idling at the curb. The driver got out, walked up my driveway, and knocked. I opened the door. He handed me a slip of paper. Unauthorized vehicle storage during snow emergency. Tow authorized by Tundra Trace HOA management. My truck was parked in my own driveway, legally registered, insured, and tagged. I asked him what he was talking about. He shrugged and said he was just doing his job, ma'am authorized it, and pointed to Sharon standing at the end of my driveway with her clipboard and flashlight. I walked down to meet her. The snow was coming down harder now, big wet flakes that stuck to everything. Sharon was wearing her purple parka and black knit beanie, shining her flashlight at the snow piles on either side of my driveway like she was hunting for evidence. I asked her what this was about. She said my truck had been parked in the same spot for more than 72 hours during a snow event, which violated the emergency parking rotation rule. I told her I lived here, it was my driveway, and there was no rotation rule. She smiled and said, "I can fine you daily until the snow melts and you cry." That was the moment I knew I had to fight back hard, but I also knew I had to be smart. Sharon wanted me to lose my temper, to yell, to do something she could use against me. So I nodded like I accepted it, because I wanted her comfortable and careless. I told the tow driver to hold on, went inside, grabbed my phone, and pulled up my work schedule. I had photos. Timestamp photos of my truck in the same spot going back 3 weeks, because I had been documenting the driveway snow clearing for exactly this kind of situation. I also had a sworn neighbor statement with photos that destroys Karen's timeline. My neighbor 2 doors down, an older guy named Ed who hates the HOA almost as much as I do, had been watching the whole thing unfold and had taken his own photos with dates and times. He had even written up a short statement saying my truck had not moved because I work early mornings and park in the same spot every night, which is completely normal. I showed the tow driver the photos on my phone. I showed him the neighbor statement Ed had emailed me the night before. I told him Sharon was lying and that if he hooked my truck, I would file a police report for theft and send copies to his company. He looked at Sharon. She started yelling about obstruction and interference. He looked back at me, looked at the photos again and said, "I am not getting in the middle of this," and drove off. Sharon lost it. She screamed that I had just violated another rule by intimidating a contracted vendor. She said the board would be notified immediately. She said I would regret this. Then she turned and walked back to her car, slipping slightly on an icy patch and catching herself with the flashlight. I almost laughed, but I did not. I went inside, called Jessica, and told her everything. She told me it was time to go nuclear. Jessica helped me organize everything into a formal evidence packet. The original notices, the certified letter, the missing meeting minutes, the quorum logs from the county showing the last recorded board vote was 4 months ago, the tow company dispatch record I requested under Consumer Protection Law, D's sworn statement, and my timestamp photos. We put it all in a binder with tabs and an index. Then we sent it to the HOA attorney with a cover letter saying the board had violated the governing documents and that I was requesting an immediate review and reversal of all fines and enforcement actions. We also sent a copy to the management company and kept one for myself. The response came 2 days later, not from the attorney, from Sharon. She sent a group email to the entire neighborhood using the HOA portal, claiming I was a safety risk, that I had threatened a vendor, and that the board was pursuing legal action to protect the community. The email was insane. It accused me of everything from blocking snow plows to creating slip hazards to running an unlicensed business out of my garage. None of it was true, but it was out there now, in writing, sent to 300 households. My phone started blowing up. Neighbors I barely knew were texting me asking what was going on. A few were supportive. Most were just confused. One guy asked if I was really running a chop shop. I wanted to throw my phone into the snow. Instead, I screenshotted the email, forwarded it to Jessica, and waited. Jessica called me that night and said, "This is gold." She explained that Sharon had just committed libel in writing on an official HOA communication platform and that the attorney was going to have a field day with it. She told me to sit tight and let the process work. I tried. But Sharon was not done. If you are enjoying this, hit the like button and subscribe for more HOA stories. The next escalation was coordinated. Sharon did not just come after me. She brought in the management company and the tow vendor together, running a joint operation to box me in. It started with another certified letter, this time from the management company, saying my account was past due and that a lien would be filed within 5 business days unless I paid in full. The same day, I got a call from the tow company saying they had a standing order to remove my vehicle if it was found in violation again, and that I should make other arrangements. It was a squeeze play, designed to force me into paying just to make it stop. I did not pay. I called the management company and demanded to speak to a supervisor. They put me through to a woman named Linda, who sounded exhausted. I told her about the missing minutes, the fake emergency policy, and Sharon's group email. Linda sighed and said the board had full discretion and that she could not override their decisions. I asked if she had actually seen the meeting minutes. Long pause. She said she would look into it and get back to me. She never did. Instead, Sharon showed up at my door again, this time with 2 other board members and a guy in a reflective vest who turned out to be a gate technician with a tool bag walking up mid-argument. They were there to inspect my driveway for code compliance. It was absurd. There is no gate in my neighborhood. The technician looked as confused as I did. Sharon handed me a clipboard and told me to sign a waiver allowing the inspection. I refused. She said refusal was an automatic violation and another $200 fine. I told her to leave my property. She refused. I pulled out my phone and started recording. That was when she threw the vest at me. The vest hit me in the chest and dropped into the snow. Sharon screamed that I was obstructing an official inspection and that she was calling the police. I told her to go ahead. She did. 20 minutes later, a Denver PD officer showed up, looked at the situation, asked what was going on. I showed him the video I had just taken. I showed him the evidence packet. I explained the whole thing. Fake rules, no minutes, harassment, libel. He looked at Sharon and asked if she had documentation of the emergency policy. She said it was on file with the management company. He asked her to produce it. She said she did not have it with her. He told everyone to leave my property and said if there was a civil dispute, it needed to go through the courts, not his time. Sharon left, but not before telling me this was not over. The other board members looked embarrassed. The gate technician apologized and said he had no idea what he was walking into. I thanked the officer and went inside. My hands were shaking, not from fear, from rage. But I also felt something else. Control. Because now I had it all on video. That night I sent the video to Jessica. She sent it to the HOA attorney with a new cover letter, this one a lot more aggressive. It pointed out the trespassing, the false accusations, the police involvement, and the fact that Sharon had just assaulted me on camera by throwing the vest. It demanded an immediate board meeting, a public apology, and the removal of all fines and enforcement actions. It also threatened a lawsuit for harassment, libel, and abusive process if the HOA did not comply within 7 days. The attorney responded the next morning, not to me, to the full board. Jessica got a copy from a friendly board member who was sick of Sharon's antics. The email was blunt. The board had exposed the HOA to significant legal liability. The emergency snow policy had no legal foundation, and Sharon's behavior was indefensible. The attorney recommended an immediate settlement and a policy review. He also recommended Sharon step down from the safety committee. Sharon did not step down. Instead, she called an emergency board meeting and tried to ram through a vote to ratify the snow policy retroactively. That was when the twist hit. One of the board members, a quiet guy named Tom, who had been on the fence the whole time, stood up during the meeting and said he had reviewed the governing documents in the meeting logs. He said there had been no quorum at the last 3 meetings, which meant none of the votes taken during that time were valid. That included the vote that made Sharon safety chair in the first place. Sharon's own messages contradict her story, and the room sees it live. Tom pulled out printed copies of Sharon's own emails and text messages, time-stamped and dated, showing that she had been coordinating enforcement actions before any policy was even proposed. She had been making it up as she went, using the weather as cover. The room went silent. Then someone laughed. Then someone else. Within minutes, the whole meeting had turned. Board members were demanding answers. Sharon tried to bluster, tried to claim Tom was lying, but he had the receipts. Literally, every email, every text, every notice she had sent, all of it cataloged and cross-referenced. The vote was unanimous. The emergency snow policy was voided. All fines were reversed. Sharon was removed from the safety committee. The board also voted to adopt a formal winter policy with clear definitions, neutral proof standards, and a real appeal process. It was everything I had asked for, and it happened because Sharon had been so arrogant she had left a paper trail a mile long. But I was not done, because Sharon had one more move. 2 days after the meeting, she showed up at my house again, this time without the board, without the flashlight, just her and a piece of paper. She said the board vote did not matter because she was filing a personal lawsuit against me for defamation and emotional distress. She said she had already contacted a lawyer and that I would be served within the week. She said I could either settle now, pay her $10,000, or face her in court. I looked at her, standing on my porch in the cold, breath steaming, trying one last time to intimidate me. And I smiled. Because I had been waiting for this. I reached into my jacket pocket, pulled out the reflective triangle marker I had been carrying since the tow truck incident, and held it up like a prop. I told her I had one more thing to show her. I handed her a manila envelope. Inside was a copy of the full evidence packet I had already filed with the county, including her defamatory group email, the video of her throwing the vest, the police report, and a signed affidavit from Ed, my neighbor, detailing every interaction he had witnessed. I also included a letter from Jessica's firm, pre-drafted, offering Sharon a choice: drop everything and sign a mutual release, or face a countersuit for harassment, trespassing, assault, and abusive process, with damages starting at $50,000. Sharon opened the envelope, read the first page, and her face went white. She tried to say something, but nothing came out. She turned and walked back to her car, slipping on the same icy patch as before, catching herself on the hood. She drove away. I never heard from her again. The lawsuit never materialized. A week later, I got a call from Linda at the management company. She said the board had reviewed my account and determined that all fines and fees had been reversed, that my record was clear, and that the HOA was issuing a formal apology for the enforcement errors. She also said Sharon had resigned from the board entirely, citing personal reasons. I thanked her and hung up. But the real payoff came a month later. The HOA hired an independent compliance consultant to audit the winter enforcement process and make sure it was fair and transparent. The consultant interviewed residents, reviewed the governing documents, and issued a report. The report found that the so-called emergency snow policy had never been legally adopted, that multiple residents had been fined without due process, and that the safety committee had been operating outside its authority for over a year. The board voted to refund every snow-related fine issued in the past 18 months and to adopt the new winter policy the consultant recommended. It was a clean sweep. I also got my promotion. The background check came back clear because there was nothing on my record. No lien, no lawsuit, no unresolved disputes. Just a guy who stood up to a bully and won. The neighborhood is different now. The new winter policy is clear and reasonable. Shovel your walks within 24 hours of a snow event. Salt your steps. Do not block the street. If you have a dispute, there is a real process with real deadlines and real accountability. The portal actually gets updated. Meeting minutes are posted on time. The board holds quarterly open forums where residents can ask questions and raise concerns. It is not perfect, but it is functional, and that is a huge improvement. I still see Sharon around sometimes. She does not make eye contact. She does not say anything. She just walks past, head down, like I do not exist. And that is fine with me. Because I won. Not by yelling, not by fighting dirty, not by breaking the rules. I won by following the process, gathering the evidence, and forcing the system to work the way it was supposed to. The fallout for Sharon was worse than I expected. After she resigned from the board, a few other residents came forward with their own stories. Turns out I was not the only one she had targeted. There was a single mom who got fined for not shoveling fast enough because she worked nights and could not get to it before the 24-hour window Sharon had invented. There was an elderly couple who got threatened with a lien because their driveway snow pile was 6 inches too high, according to some rules Sharon made up on the spot. There was even a guy who got a violation notice for using the wrong kind of salt, because Sharon claimed it was damaging the landscaping. Every single one of them had been too scared or too tired to fight back. But once my case went public, they all started talking. The board ended up reversing over 30 fines and issuing apologies across the neighborhood. Sharon's legacy was not safety or compliance. It was chaos and fear. And now it was over. Jessica told me later that the HOA attorney had quietly advised the board to settle my case fast, because if it went to trial, the HOA would lose badly, and the damages could be catastrophic. The video alone was enough to prove harassment and abusive process. The fake policy, the missing minutes, the coordinated vendor threats, all of it added up to a pattern of misconduct that no judge would tolerate. The board knew it. Sharon knew it. That is why she folded. I kept the reflective triangle marker. I still use it every winter. I stick it at the edge of my driveway when the plows come through, same as always. Nobody says a word. Because now it is not just a marker, it is a reminder. A reminder that you do not have to accept bullying, even when it comes wrapped in official letterhead and committee authority. You can fight back. You can win. You just have to be willing to do the work. The new safety committee chair is a retired teacher named Angela, who actually cares about safety instead of control. She organized a neighborhood snow buddy program where people who are elderly or disabled can get help with shoveling from volunteers. She also set up a group chat for snow emergencies so people can share plow schedules and road conditions in real time. It is the kind of thing Sharon could have done if she had actually cared about the community instead of her own power. I also learned something about HOAs that I did not fully understand before. The rules are only as good as the people enforcing them. If you have a board that acts in good faith, follows the governing documents, and treats residents with respect, an HOA can actually work. It can maintain property values, organize community events, and handle common area maintenance without turning into a nightmare. But if you have someone like Sharon, someone who sees the rules as a weapon instead of a framework, the whole thing falls apart. And the only way to fix it is to force accountability, document everything, and make the system prove itself. The final showdown, the one that really closed the chapter, happened at my front porch when Sharon showed up with an inspection crew in reflective vests, trying to manufacture one last violation. It was the driveway blockade where Karen places cones in the snow to trap my exit all over again, except this time I was ready. I had the video. I had the evidence packet. I had the neighbor statements. I had the attorney on speed dial. And I had the knowledge that I was not alone, that other people were watching, and that Sharon's power was already gone. When I handed Sharon that envelope, when I saw her face go white, I felt something I had not felt in months. Relief. Not victory, not revenge, just relief. Because it was over. The harassment, the threats, the constant low-level dread that she was going to find some new way to hurt me, all of it was done. She could file her lawsuit if she wanted. She could keep sending letters. But she had no power anymore. The board knew it. The attorney knew it. And most importantly, she knew it. I submitted the packet to the HOA attorney and watched the tone change instantly. The attorney went from professionally distant to actively helpful in about 10 seconds. He asked me if I wanted to pursue a formal complaint against Sharon personally. I thought about it. Part of me wanted to. Part of me wanted to see her face consequences that really stung. But another part of me, the part that just wanted to live my life and fix trucks and not think about HOA drama every day, said no. I told the attorney I just wanted the fines reversed, the policy fixed, and my record cleared. He said he could make that happen. And he did. The board met one more time, a closed session I was not invited to, and when they came out, the decision was final. The HOA removes the enforcement action and voids the ledger entry. My account balance went to zero. The violation notices were deleted from the system. The certified letters were retracted. It was like the whole thing never happened, except for the scars and the lessons and the knowledge that I had won. The neighborhood group chat, which had been a toxic mess of accusations and fear for weeks, slowly turned into something normal again. People started posting about lost dogs and garage sales and restaurant recommendations. Someone organized a spring cleanup day. Someone else started a book club. The HOA became background noise instead of the main event, and that was exactly how it should be. Sharon tried one last play. She posted in the group chat saying the board had acted illegally and that she was going to run for president in the next election to fix the corruption. Nobody responded. The post just sat there, ignored, until it scrolled off the screen. A week later, she deleted it. A month later, she stopped posting entirely. By summer, she had moved out of the neighborhood. I heard she bought a condo in a high-rise downtown, no HOA, just a building manager and quiet anonymity. I hope she is happier there. I really do. Because I do not think about her anymore. The funny karma beat, the one that still makes me smile, came during the group chat blow-up that spilled into a face-to-face confrontation in falling snow. Sharon had been ranting in the chat about how I was a liar and a troublemaker, and how the board needed to take stronger action. She demanded proof and then panics when I hand out copies of the evidence packet right there in the snow in front of half the neighborhood. People were standing around in their driveways, watching the whole thing unfold like a street performance. Sharon kept saying I was faking the documents, that the timestamps were wrong, that Ed's statement was hearsay. And then Ed himself walked out of his house, waved, and said, "I will testify in court if you need me to." The crowd went silent. Then someone laughed. Then everyone laughed. Sharon tried to keep arguing, but the sound of an entire neighborhood laughing at her was too much. She just walked away, slipping on ice, catching herself, and disappearing into the snow squall. Karen is outvoted so hard the room laughs. That moment in the board meeting, when Tom stood up with the printed emails and the timeline and the proof that Sharon had been lying the whole time, and the board members just started shaking their heads and chuckling in disbelief, that was the moment I knew it was really over. You cannot come back from that. You cannot rebuild authority once people have laughed at you for abusing it. Sharon tried, but the damage was done. The board stripped her title, reversed her actions, and moved on, and the neighborhood did the same. I still live in Tundra Trace. I still work at the municipal garage. I still shovel my walk and salt my steps and stick my reflective triangle marker in the snow when the plows come through. But now I do it without fear. I do it knowing that the rules are clear, the process is fair, and that if someone tries to abuse their power again, the system will stop them. Because I proved it can be done. The new winter policy that the board adopted is posted on the portal, fully public, with definitions and deadlines, and an appeal process that actually works. If you get a violation notice, you can request a hearing. If the hearing goes against you, you can appeal to the full board. If the board rules against you, you can request mediation or take it to small claims court. It is not perfect, but it is transparent, and that makes all the difference. I also helped Angela, the new safety chair, draft a training guide for board members about HOA authority and resident rights. It is a simple document, just a few pages, but it lays out what the board can and cannot do, what counts as a legitimate violation, and how to handle disputes without turning into a tyrant. The board voted to make it mandatory reading for anyone who runs for a committee position. It is a small thing, but small things add up. People ask me sometimes if I regret buying in an HOA. I tell them no, because the HOA is not the problem. The people running it are the problem, and people can be fixed. Rules can be fixed. Systems can be fixed. It just takes someone willing to stand up and do the work. And I did, and it worked. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.